YouTube, etc. It's not just about the eyeballs that you get on that advertisement specifically. It's about how you actually tie that back to your return on investment. And a lot of times we help our clients come in and understand their pathway for sales more effectively so that they can actually tie that media spend.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode. As usual, I'm Andrew Dupe, Chief Relationship Officer here, and today I'm very proud to have with us John Bianchi. John is the CEO of Blue Comet Media, and I'm just going to give you right to the floor. John, tell us a little bit about Blue Comet, who you are and what you do.
Andrew, thank you so much for having me on board the show today, and thank you to Leaders Press for giving me this opportunity as well. Blue Comet Media is a digital advertising agency. So we help our clients with media placement across all streaming channels from Google Ads, YouTube, Facebook to Hulu and other streaming properties. And I like to say that our tagline is, we run ads and you make money.
Superb. Well, I mean, that's what the topic is for the day. Everyone's here learning about, how do I increase my authority? How do I gain visibility? I mean, very clearly, the very first thing someone thinks about are, well, ads. So tell us a little bit about ways in which you can utilize ads to try and boost your signal.
Sure, it's a great question. The digital advertising landscape has changed drastically in the last 5 years. No longer is it just about brand awareness or driving impressions online. What we help our clients and what we encourage our clients to think specifically about is conversion. So when we place advertisements online, let's say Google Ads or YouTube, etc., it's not just about the eyeballs that you get on that advertisement specifically. It's about how you actually tie that back to your return on investment. And a lot of times we help our clients come in and understand their pathway for sales more effectively so that they can actually tie that media spend to a return. So, in terms of whether you're getting ready to start a campaign, what I always, encourage our clients to think through is, what is the purpose and goal of that campaign? Simply to generate awareness? Excellent. Then there's a pathway to do that, and there are right kinds of copy and creative. If you want to sell something online, there's certain channels that are important to you and to potentially to your clients. And that really is what it comes down to, is targeting. We always encourage our team and our clients to think creatively about where the customer looks for information about you or your competitors. And in that arena and landscape is where you really begin to find the right place and placement for those advertisements.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, you can buy ads all you want, but if you're not getting them in front of the right people, they're not going to do anything for you. Like if Leaders Press were advertising to housewives that they were saying that's not going to appeal to them. We have our demographic, which are 7 to 9 figure business people. So then, how do you be able to find out, you may know who your main client is, but how do you be able to find out a reach that can go beyond that and still be able to get you in front of the right people?
It's a great question. And what we encourage our team and clients to work on is to do some introspection before you launch an ad campaign. There's 2 main areas that's really important to focus on. First is your potential customer or target profile. What are their interests? Where they consume media? Think about them as humans, not just as a customer you're looking to acquire.
Right.
What's important to them? What services or interests might they have that are outside of, let's say, the day-to-day? Don't think about where you would place an advertisement. Think about where they would consume media. When you understand that target demographic and profile more specifically to what's important to them, then that's where you can say, hey, is maybe YouTube the right place to have an advertisement? Maybe streaming television is somewhere where they're consuming media. Obviously, you have your traditional channels as well, but that's the first thing we really encourage our clients to think deeply about. And sometimes you have to do market research. Sometimes you might do a poll of current clients or someone in that space of where they like to consume media, et cetera. And then the second piece that we always encourage our clients to focus on is their digital foundation setup. And what does that mean? Well, I had a conversation this morning with an account manager from one of our clients, and they don't have a Google Analytics account set up for one of their sub websites. They're not sure who has ownership of a certain login. All of these things need to be documented and set up properly, because sure, we can run advertisements on a Google Ads platform or Facebook ads, but how do we report effectively on that and make good business decisions with that information that we get back? So when you're looking at where to expand your message, it's important to think about where individuals consume media about you, your service, or your brand. And obviously that connects to Leaders Press. Are people reading and consuming information online that is totally outside of maybe where you think we would place a piece of media? But how does that connect to where the customer really consumes information about something that they're searching for, and that you can then provide that information to them to
Right.
be that thought expert in the space?
Right, absolutely. So let's say then that you kind of have an idea of where you want to advertise, where you want to talk. How do you get to the messaging? I mean, I know a lot of people will come into this and say, well, I mean, do I just write copy and
Yeah.
maybe get in front of my computer for a minute? I mean, what do you tell people that are like, how am I going to do the messaging that's going to hit the right audience, is going to get them interested and engaged?
So it's a great question. I always come back to the fact that I wouldn't paint my own house. There are experts who do specific things very well, and we encourage, whenever you're looking to spend money to promote yourself or your brand, I always recommend coming in and having an expert do what they're very good at.
Right.
What you're good at as the individual wanting to expand this is your story. You know it well, you know your business, you know how it functions, you know what you want to help your potential clients with. The individuals that will come in to do that from an expertise perspective is where you should start. So I would say always bring in someone who is a copywriting and content expert to help you craft that message and understand how to say what you want to say effectively to your audience. And obviously, this is what Leaders Press does. So you can connect that to creating great messaging and bringing in someone who's an expert to do that. We help our clients with that too, but obviously we work with high-level experts when it comes to crafting messages specifically for those target demographics. So I always say, if you wouldn't paint your own house, you probably shouldn't write your own copy.
Yeah. Well, see, that's one of the things that I feel that someone that's getting into advertising or authority building space has to really realize. That isn't it true that the more that you look to invest in it on the front end, the higher your potential will be on the back end?
Absolutely. And again, that goes back to the same thing I'm saying by hiring an expert.
Right.
It's pretty well known in what I would consider more tactile realms, that when you have someone who knows what they're doing, it's the measure once, you won't have to cut it twice. So the idea that, again, investing on the front end and building the correct digital foundation, working with an expert to get your messaging correct, will obviously lead to a more effective spend for, let's say, advertising dollars in the future, but also less rework. And that's really where a lot of businesses end up kind of struggling in the beginning, is that there's a tremendous amount of rework that has to be done when things were not set up effectively and correctly. And really, I see this all the time, is, maybe the wrong tool was chosen, the wrong project management system. Even, when someone tries to bootstrap or does it themselves and it doesn't quite come out the way it should, then they have to reinvest with an expert, but then they've also lost that own time that they have, which is valuable, right? Time is money. So
Clearly, yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more in terms of investing correctly upfront with a smart and efficient mind of how you want to actually drive return on investment will save you down the road, thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because think about it, that's connected to sales. So you might only have one shot to get that right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking a lot about actually direct advertising, finding your customers, finding the people that you want to actually come in and do business. But I know that a topic that is relevant to a lot of our listeners is, what's the difference then between when you're advertising to a customer or when you're advertising to potential partners? Because a lot of people are interested in also building authority, not just with customer base, but with other peers in their field.
Absolutely. And this comes down to thought leadership in the space. So I don't post on LinkedIn just because I'm always trying to sell something. I post relevant pieces of information online to other, like you said, partners and business owners to try to add value to the conversation. And the best way to be seen as relevant and valuable in your space from a thought leadership perspective is to think about how you're adding value to that conversation in any channel or any area that you choose to engage with other individuals. So obviously, LinkedIn is huge for me, but Leaders Press provides the opportunity for business owners and CEOs and C-level individuals to build and have that story that helps you build a legacy and value in the space by people saying, wow, they've taken the time to try to add value to me as a business partner.
Yes.
I'm interested in getting to know them more effectively and potentially build a relationship. So partnership development is about adding value. It should be at any stage, even with your clients. But when you're thinking about trying to engage with someone that's a peer, it's always, I like to think of two things. I always ask online, how can I help? How
Mhm.
can I add value to this conversation? And then I try to understand what's important to the individuals that I'm chatting with, and maybe see where there's a gap in information. I always like to not be someone who's just posting to post, but really find time to add something to this total conversation that we're in that helps other people be more effective in their role.
That's interesting that how you mentioned the difference in language and saying to a partner, how am I going to be able to help you? How important is it for someone to find a voice that they have to have that's going to be with peers in their business rather than customers? How do you suggest, beyond just how do I help you, approaching someone that you're looking to partner with rather than try to sell a product to?
Sure. Well, it's not always easy to come up with your own personal voice.
Right.
What I find is probably one of the more effective ways to do this is if you're in business and you're someone with a great story to tell, obviously there are some key things that are important to you, some milestones or experiences that you've had that other people can find relation to, maybe find relatable, and that help potentially individuals who are below you, let's say, that they're coming into the sphere you're in, and then can maybe engender those conversations you want to have with other individuals who are either ahead of you in their career or kind of in your space. I don't know that it's necessarily the easiest thing to find your voice,
Mm.
again, without working with an expert who understands how to craft your message effectively. So a lot of times experts I find in fields are ranging more into the engineer or technician, right? You're really good at something you do. I didn't build an advertising agency because I didn't, not like it, wasn't good at it. That's what I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I like the technological aspect. In the same way, I didn't choose, music as one of the fields, even though I like music personally. It wasn't what I was passionate about. We like a certain passion of clients that we work with. So, in the same way, I think it's important to introspectively ask, what am I passionate about? What do I like? What am I good at? And then how does that fit in to where I want to add value? And your voice comes from being real and authentic because people appreciate that. Look, Gary Vee might have a certain style, but
Mhm.
we know it's Gary Vee and he talks a certain way. And hey, that's his brand.
Yeah.
But he did it from a place of authenticity. And I don't think we've ever thought he's not authentic online.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's kind of how you begin to develop that message. And like I said, sometimes that does, not only take the introspection, but also working with someone to help you determine how you present yourself online and what that brand and what that voice could and should be.
I like to tell people that I think that we keep saying the word story, and I agree with you 100% that one of the best ways to find your voice is to just concentrate on your stories.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, with that said, how often do you see people that have a book that are able to integrate it into their funnel and into their branding, and how valuable would be a book be to someone to have for that?
Oh, I think it's hugely valuable, and I think one of the biggest ways that I see this effective for clients is very simply in this case. A book can be a good intro to getting to know you and also then to leading to other business services. So let's say you have this kind of, now you've got all these stories packaged well, it presents you, it presents your image and your
Mhm.
brand. How can you then use that as a tool to bring in more people to your conversation? So on a number of our clients have a book or some other, let's say, online piece of material that's used as an initial engagement piece so that then they can collect information, they can have people reach out and say, hey, I checked out your story, I checked out your book, I'd love to know if you could help me with this because I see this is what you do for your clients. It's a huge piece of being able to engage online. And I think it's interesting that as the digital world has matured, the physical space is still extremely relevant.
Mhm.
I think people want to be able to engage offline. They want to be able to take that on their own time. There's certainly many methods of delivery that are associated with building that piece of material. That's hugely important. I think I always look at it as a colleague of mine once kind of told the story about what's called a monkey's paw. And the monkey's paw
Yep.
was this idea of just having a small ship go out and help guide a larger ship into port. And they would throw out a rope, and that was called the monkey's paw, kind of pull it in that way. And I see something as a book or other piece of material as exactly that. Can bring people who don't know you into a conversation to have a larger business relationship, partners, clients, etc. That's a huge way to do that.
Absolutely. And so let's say someone then has their book, they have an advertising plan, they have many think that, well, I've got it, then it's all just going to happen. But I keep hearing talking about engagement. How
Yes.
important is just staying engaged? And what suggestions do you have to someone that may have an advertising plan but doesn't really know how they're going to keep everybody on the hook and the back and forth?
Well, engagement can be broken down into a couple of different things. Obviously, when you use the word engagement, people think about engagement on, let's say, online postings, right? So the first thing you have to understand is that engagement is a constant and consistent practice across the board. It's not just digital. Engagement is following up with your audience. It's maybe having an email marketing campaign associated with it. It's sending out tips. It's developing those conversations. Of course, that encompasses the online realm, but engagement comes down to also different levels. So you might engage differently with your customers or clients or potential audience there, and engage in a very different way with potential partners. Some may overlap, but I think when you're talking about engagement, that is critical to maintaining your voice. So again, it's not a flash in the pan. You don't, like you said, you don't just create a couple of things, turn it on and think it's going to work. It's like nurturing a garden, right? You have to continuously plant seeds, you have to harvest your crops, you have to make sure everything is working well. Obviously, I would say you probably need a team to do that, and that's how we do help our clients. But ultimately, it comes down to having an effective plan associated with your engagement strategy as much as it does to have a plan to build what you want to produce and present out there. So to me, engagement is a journey. It's not a one-time thing. It's not, oh, I put out I wrote a book, I put out a couple of posts about that. People have come to take a look, they've downloaded, they've bought, etc. Okay, well, what do you do next? It's about having that journey associated with, and really, if I can add this one last thing on engagement,
Sure.
you have to know where you want people to go with your journey.
Right.
You don't know, how are they going to know and follow a path? So you got to think about what that engagement strategy and pathway is. And then you'll be surprised. People like following you on that journey. It's
Mhm.
actually innate to our human experience to go on the road together, right? So have a plan, know the pathway, know where you want to take folks in the journey, and be the sage. Be the sage along that trail that leads people down a path where they can pick up those valuable pieces along the way. That's kind of how I think about engagement.
Yeah, I think that's all extremely valuable, and I think that that's really just something everybody kind of gets lost on a little bit when they're putting everything together, is just staying with it. All right, well, John, as we kind of start wrapping up a little bit here, I always ask this questions. Like, I know a lot of our audience comes in, there's a lot of value propositions here. They want to find the hack. They want to find the little secret, the little thing. So when you're talking about just being able, just in general, to be more visible and to build authority, what haven't you touched on? What kind of secret can we get out of you that might be of value to our audience?
Yeah, well, I can maybe add three things I think that immediately for anyone without spending a dime will help you with presenting your message. I think the first thing is, again, knowing what your story is and what you want to say. If you don't know that, people can't engage with you. In fact, they'll be turned off by the fact that there's no consistent message. So that leads into my second point, which is I believe that success is a formula of consistency over time. I don't think that you see very successful people get to where they are without them being consistent every day and doing the hard things and doing them right and doing them well,
Right.
And doing them consistently over time, right? So the last thing that I would add to that is knowing your audience and what is important to them and doing that research is probably the number one hack that I would say that I've even done. I'll give you an example. You know, a couple days ago, one of our postings from our agency was featured by LinkedIn News, and the reason is we realized that there was a challenge on Instagram. I immediately told the team, let's get a piece out there that just says, hey, here's something we're seeing. And we want you to be safe, be careful, don't log into the accounts, let them sort it out. We immediately posted that on LinkedIn, because again, posting that on Instagram wouldn't have helped. People already have a challenge there. Post something relevant on a different channel, and we got featured. It was great. It was really good exposure. But my point was to add some value. Think if you want to think about where you can hack something, think about something that nobody's saying where you can add value for the purest intent of making sure other people are safe, productive, and being successful, let's say online, in life, wherever it is. And that's one of the best ways that people will begin to trust you and your message. And it all comes down to trust. So I know there's no quick, fix like that, or there's no way to go viral. I get that. I mean, unless you're a good dancer, maybe that still works now. I don't know. But I think those three things are really the biggest keys to success. Think about where you can stand out from the competition, and then niche down into that and be unique in your sphere.
I think that's really valuable advice. I find that the ultimate hack is to realize that there are no hacks, and then to start from there. Well, John, if somebody wants to do a hack by finding you and have you help them out, how can they do that?
Well, they can obviously reach out on our website at www.bluecomet.media. They could also reach out to me directly, John, John, at bluecomet.media. And we'd love to have a conversation. And I always say that, again, I'm actually excited to have a conversation with anyone. Please reach out to me. Even if it doesn't end up in a relationship, again, if I can add value, that's extremely important to me. So that's where they can reach out, John at bluecomet.media. And I look forward to seeing any conversations that we can have.
Fantastic. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and get started with a conversation with John. John, it was a real pleasure to have you here today. Great insights and great value. And we wish you a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Andrew. It was amazing.
All right. Bye-bye.